It was late October, and I'd been working as a live-in babysitter for about 3 months. My boss, Amanda, was a divorcee in her late 30s with a sweet little girl named Lily. They lived in a nice house on the outskirts of Billings, Montana. Amanda worked long hours at a law firm downtown, so I was often left alone with Lily during the day. The neighborhood was quiet, the kind of place where people left their doors unlocked. At least, they used to. That day started like any other. Amanda had left for work early, and I was making lunch for Lily when I noticed a strange car parked across the street. It wasn't anyone I recognized from the neighborhood. The man inside sat there, not moving, his face obscured by a baseball cap pulled low. Something about him felt off, but I told myself it was probably nothing, just someone waiting for a friend or a delivery. I didn't say anything to Amanda when she came home that evening. Looking back, I wish I had. Later that night, after Amanda put Lily to bed, we sat in the living room chatting. Amanda seemed distracted, her eyes darting to the windows every so often. I asked if everything was okay, and she hesitated before saying she'd been getting strange phone calls at work. No one spoke, but she could hear heavy breathing on the other end. I felt a chill run through me. Amanda brushed it off, saying it was probably just a prank. Still, I noticed she double-checked the locks on all the doors before heading to bed. Around midnight, I woke up to the sound of glass shattering. At first, I thought it was a dream, but then I heard Amanda scream. My heart was pounding as I scrambled out of bed and grabbed my phone. I crept to the hallway and peeked downstairs. That's when I saw him. A tall man in a dark jacket stood in the living room, shards of broken glass crunching under his boots. He had something in his hand, a knife that glinted in the faint light. Amanda was backing away, her hands raised, begging him to stop. I froze. My brain was screaming at me to do something, but my body wouldn't move. Amanda's voice cracked as she pleaded with him. "Please, Jack, don't do this. Lily's upstairs. She doesn't deserve this." That's when it hit me this was her ex-husband, the one she never talked about. I'd overheard bits and pieces from neighbors, stories about how dangerous he was, but Amanda always brushed it off, claiming he was locked away for good. Jack didn't say a word. He just stepped closer, the knife steady in his hand. Amanda tried to run toward the kitchen, but he grabbed her by the hair and yanked her back. She screamed, and I snapped out of my daze. I ducked into Lily's room, my hands trembling as I locked the door behind me. Lily was sound asleep, clutching her stuffed rabbit. I dialed 911, whispering into the phone as I explained what was happening. The operator told me to stay on the line and remain quiet. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped the phone. Through the thin walls, I could hear the struggle downstairs, furniture crashing, Amanda screaming, and Jack's low, furious growls. It sounded like a nightmare unfolding just feet away. I crouched beside Lily's bed, praying she wouldn't wake up and start crying. Then the house went eerily silent. No screams, no crashing, nothing but the sound of my own shallow breaths. My heart felt like it was about to explode. I didn't know if Jack had left, or worse, if he was coming upstairs. I kept my ear pressed to the door, straining to hear any sign of movement. That's when I heard the first creak of a floorboard. He was coming up. I gripped the phone tighter, whispering to the operator, "He's upstairs. Please, tell them to hurry." The faint sound of police sirens in the distance gave me a shred of hope, but they weren't close enough. I pressed my back against the door, trying to block it, as his footsteps grew louder. Then they stopped right outside. I held my breath, praying he would move on, but then the doorknob jiggled. It wasn't a frantic motion. It was slow and purposeful, like he knew we were in there and was savoring the moment. My stomach dropped as he whispered through the door, his voice low and icy. "I know you're in there, both of you." Lily stirred in her bed, her little face scrunching up as she started to wake. I rushed over to her, putting a hand over her mouth and whispering, "Shh, it's okay. Don't make a sound." My whole body was trembling, but I tried to stay calm for her. The doorknob stopped moving, and for a moment, I thought he might leave. But then came a loud, deafening thud. He was throwing his weight against the door. I screamed into the phone. "He's breaking in. Please hurry." The sirens were louder now, but Jack wasn't stopping. The doorframe was splintering with each hit. Lily started crying, and I held her tightly, trying to shield her with my body. Just as the door looked like it was about to give, red and blue lights flashed through the bedroom window. The pounding on the door stopped abruptly. Through the window, I saw the flash of police cars pulling into the driveway, their lights painting the room in frantic, spinning colors. For a split second, I thought it was over. But then, I heard heavy footsteps retreating down the hall and toward the stairs. I crept to the door and cracked it open just enough to see. Jack was heading back down, knife still in hand, moving like a man who knew he had nothing left to lose. He didn't run or try to hide. Instead, he stood in the living room waiting. I could hear the officers shouting commands outside, their voices muffled through the walls. I stayed in the room with Lily, holding her close as she sobbed into my shoulder. A moment later, the front door was kicked open. The shouts from the police were clearer now. "Drop the weapon. Put your hands up." I couldn't see what happened next, but the sound of gunshots echoed through the house three in quick succession. Then silence. My legs gave out, and I sat there on the floor with Lily, unable to process what had just happened. After what felt like hours but was probably just minutes, there was a knock on the bedroom door. "It's the police," a voice called. I hesitated, unsure if it was really over, but then I unlocked the door and opened it a crack. A uniformed officer stood there, his gun lowered but still in hand. "You're safe now," he said, his voice steady but tense. "We've got him." I stepped out, still clutching Lily, and followed the officer downstairs. The living room was a mess, broken furniture, shattered glass, and in the center of it all, Jack lay motionless on the floor, a pool of blood spreading beneath him. His eyes were open, but they stared at nothing. I felt a wave of relief, and nausea hit me all at once. Amanda, though, she wasn't moving either. She was slumped against the wall, her shirt soaked in blood. The paramedics arrived shortly after, but it was too late for Amanda. She was gone. The officers took my statement while Lily was checked out by EMTs. I kept replaying the night in my head, wondering if there was something I could have done differently. But the truth was, Jack came here to finish what he started, and nothing could have stopped him except what did ... In the days that followed, the story made every headline. "Escaped killer dies in police shootout" was plastered across every newspaper and news site. But the part they didn't cover, the part I can't forget, was the look in Amanda's eyes when she realized Jack wasn't there to hurt her. He was there to end her. That's what haunts me. That's what I'll never forget.